A new law Governor Jeff Landry signed would give him control over the Louisiana Board of Ethics while in a dispute with board members. That's according to a report from the LA Illuminator. Last year, that ethics board charged Landry, when he was Attorney General, with failing to disclose flights he took to and from Hawaii on a political donor's private plane. It says negotiations over that punishment linked to that case is ongoing. Meantime, the governor's new law takes effect in August. It allows the governor to appoint the majority of that board.